No one ever sees that one coming, but rosemary, milk thistle, and dandelion. Dandelion is like, you can get it in teas and stuff, even go over to Hy-Vee in the health food section and get dandelion root tea. It's just a very mild way to cleanse your liver, and it's a good idea for everybody to be occasionally, it does not taste the best, but occasionally just sipping some of that. It's not going to give you the detox reaction like you're vomiting or you have diarrhea, but it does gently detox your liver, as long as you're not drinking like 10 cups or something. And then another thing that is really great for liver is dietary fiber. So recommendation is 30 grams per day for women and 40 for men. And your food sources for that, the highest would be pine nuts, raspberries, and then black beans, which amazingly, black beans have 15 grams of dietary fiber per cup, so that's pretty cool. And then obviously trying to avoid as many toxins as you possibly can to try and lessen the load on your liver, which then is lessening the load on your thyroid. Okay, so toxins, here's a long list. Nuclear radiation, most of us don't have to worry about that in a big form, but every time one of those nuclear plants malfunctions and sends radiation into the environment, we all get it in some form, through fish or what have you. And then we already talked about chlorine, fluoride, and bromine, and those are all bad things. They're in there and they're taking the spot that your iodine should. Non-stick cookware. There's just lots of toxins in the coating they stick on that stuff. Antibiotics for your gut, obviously you don't want to be taking those. The one that we all don't think about is your Wi-Fi and wireless technology, and that's pretty much everywhere. But I'm just going to call it the radiation, but the waves that is sent out by a Wi-Fi is negatively charged. So your thyroid is positively charged. So it's gonna, it's trying to protect you from these waves, so it's taking it in, which can be really hard on your thyroid. So just move to the middle of nowhere, away from everyone and all your cell phones, and your thyroid will be so happy. But it's everywhere, so that's something, it just strikes home the importance of making sure we're supporting our thyroid, no matter how healthy your diet, because there's wireless everywhere, and there, cell phones, all that sort of thing is everywhere, and so we're all getting this, no matter how healthy your diet is. And then the other thing that can attach in the place, just like chlorine, fluoride, and bromine did, are PCBs. And those are like flame retardants and just man-made chemicals, basically. The BPS and BPA that are in our plastics. All those things can come right on in there and latch in where your iodine's supposed to, and prevents the whole binding process of using iodine. And then pesticides, obviously, for the same reasons. They're going to be hard on your liver, which is in turn going to be hard on your thyroid. So basically the entire triangle. It's going to be hard on everything. Your adrenals, because once the thyroid is pulled out of the, this whole triangle is not a triangle anymore, or it's an interesting looking triangle. That's going to affect your adrenals. It's going to affect everything, the whole scope. Okay, so adrenals, yay. Most of us do have adrenal fatigue if we're alive. Adrenal stressors, this is a huge long list. Basically a lot of us know if we're stressed, but there are also stressors that we don't notice, like toxins in our food. Our organs in our body and our whole system can be stressed without us feeling quote unquote stressed. I mean, most of us feel like you go to work and you're stressed because of your coworkers. You feel that kind of stress. But the little stresses that we may not be able to feel are things like not enough exercise. And, you're just going to feel like yourself. But your organs in your body and your brain are stressed because you're not getting exercise. And you're drinking too much caffeine. You're not getting enough nutrients. And those are all things that they'll show up in different signs in your body. But you're not going to say, I'm stressed because I'm tired, if you know what I mean. So. But there's all sorts of stress. Marital stress, stress from 4 kids, emotional stress, all sorts of stresses that a lot of times we just undermine. We don't even think about it. Okay, so it's just stress. What's the big deal, right? An initial stress response, your adrenaline in your body and your cortisol are supposed to work together. But with reoccurring stress, the adrenaline rises repeatedly, which is what taxes your adrenals. And that all links back into cortisol and blood sugar. And so when you have taxed adrenals, you might be having trouble with blood sugar. Or if you have, gut issues, bad gut issues, you're probably having thyroid issues at the same time because it's all part of that triangle. So prolonged stress is dangerous. Adrenal glands lose their ability to adapt to stress, and the elevations of cortisol impair the conversion of thyroid hormone. So insufficient thyroid hormone combined with chronic stress leads to fatigue. Basically, what ends up happening is that hypothalamus ends up sending down the message to your pituitary saying, the body needs rest, the body needs rest, the body needs rest. And so then that little signal is sent down to your thyroid, down to your sex glands, and down to your adrenals. And so everything just like, okay, we need to rest, which is why people with adrenal issues and with thyroid issues are like, oh, I'm just so tired. I wake up and I'm still tired. I go to bed and I'm tired. I'm never not tired. And that's that signal that's coming down originating from the hypothalamus. Okay, so adrenal health. So the good, obviously limit stress. Bad is prolonged stress. Try to get 8 to 10 hours of sleep. I know it's hard, but that whole sleep is when your body resets and it does a lot of healing while you're sleeping. Avoid caffeine. It's an artificial stimulant. So you're stimulating your body saying, oh, we have energy, we have energy, we have energy. And the body's saying, we don't have energy, we don't have energy, we don't have energy. And it's just a constant battle. Pretty soon you're craving the next soda, you're craving the next sugar, you're craving the next fill in the blank. And it's just all because we're consuming caffeine, which is artificially pumping your body up, where your adrenals, if they were in good health, and your thyroid would do that for you. Herbal support. Vitamin B is amazing, like I said before, for stress. If you can get raw pastured egg yolks in your diet, that's awesome. It's a really good source of vitamin B along with a long list of other things. And then, if all else fails, and you can't pull off all of this, there are some amazing calming herbs that you can take, because I'm the herbalist right here. So, herbs that you can take, and all these herbs I'm listing today are going to be available at that website I referenced earlier, which is mountainroseherbs.com. So, herbs that are amazing to make you feel awesomely chill. Ashwagandha, rhodiola, urethra root, and valerian root. Valerian root I would consider like the strongest out of all those. I typically don't use it. It smells like stinky feet, just a forewarning, like it really does. And if you're not comfortable with making your own tincture of those things, it comes in a bottle form already. And places like Amazon or Spirit of Health KC has that. Some of our local stores may have it. I usually make my own tincture, so I'm kind of out of the loop as to who has what locally. And then obviously, time to take a time out. Like, we have to start putting ourselves first. Getting enough rest, taking time just to unplug, because if we don't, eventually you'll be forced to. And you may be in a hospital bed, sick, but eventually your body will have you pay your dues, just a matter of when. So we really need to be making sure we're listening to our bodies and we're taking the time to take a time out of our busy lives. And then obviously get enough water, but especially filtered water. And when I say filtered, make sure you're looking at these packages, because not every water filter takes fluoride out, or chlorine. So that's a big one. Okay, so my thyroid test looks fine, right? My thyroid test always looked fine. I would go in and I'd be like, the doctor would be like, you're good. And I'd be like, but I'm really tired. And the doctor would be like, you have 2 kids. And I'd be like, but I'm really tired. And I can't lose weight. And I just don't feel good. Oh, you're fine. It's kids. That's what it is. It's your kids. The problem is that blood is constantly changing. In fact, the blood is so crucial to our body that the body will pull nutrients from different areas to keep your blood the way it should be, okay? So testing a blood test isn't going to tell you the whole story. It'll tell you some of the story, but it won't tell you the whole story. And shockingly, 80% of your thyroid has to be not working before it shows up on a blood test. And by then, your blood is so toxic from being so low in the essential nutrients that's already pulled from your body that it's a no-brainer. You're a thyroid patient. You can walk in, the doctor will say, oh man, look at that. Because you're just so down. Your energy is so down, and you're so overweight, or you're so skinny because you're hyperthyroid. And by then, it's a no-brainer what's happening. but 80% has to be shut down before that happens. And so it's just really important to remember that blood tests are amazing and they're great and they can tell a lot of things, but if you had your blood work done in the morning and had it done in the PM, there'd be two different numbers. Just because your body goes through a cycle. Even your liver cleanses and cycles at between 1 and 2 a.m. every day. It's a natural cycle. And so your blood has the same thing. It gets cleansed, it gets cleaned, it gets fortified. And so those numbers will be totally different. And also stress. Stress, you can be stressed out. What if my thyroid's high? What if I'm... Just the stress over having a blood test can change your number because cortisol blocks that body's ability to produce the thyroid hormones, which is what we're testing. And then the insulin and blood sugars are linked back to cortisol. So if you're stressed, there you go. There goes your test results. And then infections. And sometimes infections, you don't even know you have an infection. Sometimes a lot of like gut infections or overgrowth of fungus or bacteria, you don't know you have them, they're living on you, and that's going to affect your blood tests too. So blood tests are great, but we really have to be careful as to which ones we do. So, most effective tests. If you don't want to go to the doctor, which some people don't, or if you just want to know if you should go into the doctor, take your morning temperature. And this is before you get out of bed. So for me, a mother at the time of 2, it was really hard. You wake up and you just stick the thermometer in your armpit, and lay there till it beeps, and you keep track for an entire week. And you just take an average. If your average morning before you sit up, you can't even sit up, it's got to be like right next to your bed. Reach over there and get it, you know. If it's below 97.8, you've got a sluggish thyroid. It does not mean you have hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. It just means your thyroid is struggling and it needs iodine and it needs nutrients. And if you ignore that, we're going to have trouble. So that's the reason why they list cold, sensitivity to cold, that sort of thing, because your body temperature will be low. And so you'll be in a room and you'll be like, oh my, it's so cold in here. And you'll be the one that's wearing the jacket. And everybody else is like, it's summer, you know? It's because that thyroid, it controls your body temperature. So if it's low, then we've got a struggle there. And then usually, sometimes you can get a doctor to order hair tests, urine tests, and saliva tests, but usually you have to go to a homeopathic type of doctor for those sort of things, but sometimes you can convince them. Sometimes it's out of pocket though, so you kind of have to weigh what's happening there. And then lab tests, which test both T4 and T3, and the total levels, because T4 is inactive thyroid hormone and T3 is active thyroid hormone. So T3 is what your body utilizes, so if they're only testing TSH, it doesn't say, okay, so we have enough T4, but what about T3? If you don't have enough actual active thyroid hormone, then your body's not able to use it. So it's really important that you order both of those. And then a lab test for R, or it's also called reverse T3, which is basically the break in this whole scenario. Your T3 and your RT3, you know, they kind of work together. So the reverse T3 kind of puts on the brake as far as, you know, your weight loss and then that's why with like a hyperthyroid person, they're going to have a high RT3 because their body's constantly going and the RT3 isn't functioning the way it should be. So that's why it's important to test for more than just TSH, because there's a lot of things that we miss with just doing a simple blood test. Let's see if I missed anything in that sentence. So reverse T3 is the third most abundant form of the thyroid hormone. When your body wants to conserve rather than burn energy, it will divert the active T3 into an inactive reserve form. This might happen when you're sick, under stress, or undernourished. Another test order that's really good is down there at the bottom, and that's for Hashimoto's, which is basically taking a thyroid that's been ignored for way too long, and then it turns into autoimmune disease. So those two tests will test for that. And almost everyone who has severe thyroid issues has Hashimoto's. And they have about the same symptoms, which is kind of ironic. But basically the only test that's going to have that show up, that you have Hashimoto's, are those two at the end there. And I would say them if they're extremely wrong. Thyroid peroxidase antibody and thyroglobulin antibody. I don't know. Anyway, those are the abbreviations that you could take into a doctor and say, hey, want to be tested for this, and it would come right up. And then you would know you definitely have thyroid issues. So anyway, this is in conclusion here. Basically everything in our body is linked together, and it all works together. It was all designed to work together as a perfect triangle, or square, whatever you want to say. And so when we allow one or more of these systems to get out of whack or to be malnourished, it pulls on the rest of the systems. And so it's just really important to remember that if you're having, GI issues, you're most likely having thyroid issues. If you're having adrenal issues where you're tired and you're stressed and you just can't seem to get ahead and you just feel exhausted all the time, you're probably having thyroid issues too. And so you're going to have more than one thing to fix because they're all linked in together in the big picture. So if you do start taking stuff for your thyroid, that's going to ease up on the stress of your adrenals, but you're still going to have to deal with your adrenals. Or your adrenals might magically get better. So it just depends on what's going on your body. Adrenals are really often overlooked by doctors. Even thyroid is overlooked by doctors, but if you ask for the right tests and you start down the right road, then you'll know what to be taking. And if you have autoimmune diseases, that kind of changes the protocol. So if you think you have really bad thyroid issues, it is best to at least go in and get the tests for Hashimoto's, just to kind of see where you're at. That's about it.
And can you cure Hashimoto's by following the protocol?
Yeah.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard several people
Wow.
give their testimonials of basically cleaning up the diet, and I think like I said, I really think we overlook the little stuff.
Yeah.
I think we overlook stress, and like I said, like the stresses that are within our body that we don't feel, I think we really overlook those. And I think that taking a step back from life, like I said, and saying, I have to put myself first. And life is gonna go with or without me, and I need a break, for instance, with adrenals. I need enough sleep, for instance, with adrenals. I mean, all this stuff is like one big firestorm, towards the Hashimoto's. And if you address one thing and ignore the other, those other things are still stressing your thyroid.
Yeah.
So I would say yes. I mean, I've heard people say diet, exercise, reducing stress, pretty much all stuff that I said here. But, even like overlooking water.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
That's a huge one. The chlorine and the fluoride. It's just totally huge. And totally underestimated, I think. So. Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Oh, great.
That's it. Unless anyone else needs any other information, I do have a whole closet for Weston A. Price stuff that I can find brochures and stuff if you need information. And then if you wanted, if everybody got that sign-in sheet, I think so, then I'll make sure your email is on the email. For those of you who came in late, make sure you put your email on that because we're switching all of the emails over to the Yankton chapter leader email address. And in doing that, we may have lost some people. So if you're here, put your email address down so we make sure we get you in there. And that's where you'll